Hey Praveen. Hello friends. Praveen, if you hit the link that asks to join, I'll go ahead and add you in and we can chat. Hello, I see G, I see Yaz. Perfect. Hey Nanda. Berkman's is here. Oh, awesome. Praveen is joining right now, I think. I think I hit the right button. He's coming. Don't worry. It's a long way from India, so the connection is happening slowly. Morning, everybody. Hey, Dory. Hey, Tiffany. Praveen's connection is establishing, for those wondering. Gayatri, is that you? Bina's here, Raul's here. Oh my goodness. So many people I haven't seen in so long. Praveen, it looked like the connection didn't work out, so if you request again, we'll make it work. In the meantime, I'll just keep saying hi to people because I'm so excited that there's so many people on this call. Perfect. So while we wait for Praveen to join, I want to take some deep breaths to arrive together because I'm getting so excited to see so many folks. So let's do 3 inhales and then hold at the top for 2 counts and then exhale. So inhaling and hold and exhaling. For those joining, we are breathing while we wait for internet connections to do their thing. So inhaling and hold and exhaling. Bina, it's so good to see your face. Inhaling last time and hold and exhaling. Okay, let's see. I'm going to message Praveen really quickly just to see. I love seeing all these people. Oh my goodness, Mina! I didn't even recognize that was you because it says the other name first. Just to see if he needs any support in getting back on. In the meantime, we're just hanging out together. This is such a fun connection of so many SB alums and so many, exactly, I love how it's all SB kids too. And how so many SB former volunteers. Miss Roscoe's here, and Yasmani's here, and Tiffany's here. So it's a reunion of sorts. Hey, Ryan. Oh. Praveen, that time it said that you declined. So we can try it again. Maybe we can try it one more time. Sorry, troubleshooting on this device while talking to this device. Thank you for bearing with me, my friends on this call. It's like movie night at SB when we have to rearrange the projector. That's what this feels like right now, which is beautiful memories. Praveen and I are troubleshooting. Okay, let's see. Cross your fingers. Yasmani, you were at the first movie night ever. Who else was at the first movie night ever? I bet Praveen was. I bet all were. So I'm going to say aloud what's happening in case anyone has Instagram wisdom. When I accept Praveen as a guest on our Instagram, it says that I've accepted and then it fails on his end. Any wisdom for anyone? While we reminisce about that first movie night, which was up. What year do we think that was? 2011, 2010? Was there popcorn at the first movie night? Or was that a later edition? Yes, Austin, I can, if I figured out how. Let me see. Oh, there was popcorn. Okay, my friends who know how to send the request. What button? Oh, I found it. I found it. Let's try. I love all this tech support. Okay, so I added him. Let's see if this we can try starting the live over. That's a good idea too. That was my other thought. Okay, so Praveen, maybe this will work. Everyone cross your fingers again. Sabri! Okay, we're crossing our fingers, hoping Praveen's phone and my phone get along right now. It's because of this, what are we at, 10.5 hour time difference right now? I love how many fingers crossed we're putting out into this world. It's gonna work. Thank you, Raul, for reminding us. I feel like we're at assembly. Okay, so that didn't work. Let's try, I'm going to try ending the live and restarting it. So I'm gonna stop it, we'll come right back, and we'll try to make magic happen. See you. Oh, well, let's try this one more time. One more time. Okay, and then if this doesn't work, we'll end and restart. So many little quips happening. For anyone who just joined this beautiful reunion that's happening, we're having a few tech glitches that we're sorting out. So it's just me talking to myself, but hopefully this will work. And if not, what I'll do is end the live and just restart right away. Oh, okay. Praveen is troubleshooting on his end. Praveen, before you do that, oh, actually, yeah. He's got a solution. There's a solution happening. Rethink. Praveen's going to join from someone else's phone. So, yeah, and if this doesn't work, Praveen can start a live and then we'll all join. But hopefully this device switch, it might just be Praveen's phone. So hopefully this will solve it. Okay, so Up was the first movie night. What was, does anyone remember another meaningful or like big movie night, the most exciting movie night?
Okay, yay! Okay, cool.
We're here! did it.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Praveen. Thank you, Praveen, and everyone else for working together to make this happen.
Yeah, oh wow. Okay.
We
Yeah.
are. It's 10:40 in New York in the morning, and it's what, 8:10?
8:10. Yeah.
So good evening.
Good evening. Good morning.
Thank you, thank you. I'm gonna wait a moment because it's clear all these people say hi.
Hi, Meena. Oh wow. Hi, Meena, Rahul, Berkmans. Wow. The whole community. Hi, Kartika. Hi, Shilpa. Nice to, nice to see all you guys.
Exactly, they can see us. I wish.
Yeah. Aaron. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I think so many people on this call are SVM that this will be a little silly, but not everyone. So why don't you tell us who you are?
Okay. All right. My name is Praveen. I am a freelancer, I guess, but I think my focus in life would be arts. I studied in a school called Shanti Bhavan in India, where Lizzie volunteered many times, and yeah, then I've done bachelor's in life science, and then I joined Teach for India, and I taught for 2 years, and ever since I've just been trying to find my way in life. Yeah, trying to figure out what it is I want to do.
Perfect. And you have been connected to ASTEP for some time.
Yes, yes. All right. So yeah. So when I was in Shanti Bhavan, I think when I was in middle school, Mary Mitchell started coming around a lot. She used to visit and for a few days, and soon we started getting a lot of A-step artists and volunteering for many times. And then the A-step camps started, and then initially I was a student in the A-step camps, and then later when I went to college, I used to come back on weekends to join in the camp and help out and also learn because I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I remember the first time I met you was right when you were graduating. So the fact that we know each other, you must have come back for lots of camps.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Couldn't stay away.
exactly. Camp's too much fun. Well, I'm curious, before we talk about what you're doing now in life, I'm curious, thinking back about A-Step in particular, like Mary Mitchell's time there, other volunteers, camp, all that, is two questions. Is there anything you would change if you could go back in time? And then the second question is, what was so incredible that you could relive?
All right. One thing I could change. I think just having my current outlook on life, I would definitely have wanted it then. Because back then I was just so caught up with school and arts was always available around. I was playing the piano. I didn't really take a moment to see art's place in life. I started questioning art very late. And I think what I would have really liked is just to have spent more time talking to the artists who were there, because I think I would have learned a lot. Rather, back then, my focus was just like, what can I learn in terms of art? And I feel like there was a lot that, like, untapped knowledge, or I just don't know, stories that would enhance my own thinking that I missed. And one thing I would relive is just the when A-Step camp used to happen in the mornings, we used to all gather in this massive circle and you used to lead some, I don't know, some funny chant or an activity. And I really loved that. And the thing is, like it stayed with me for, it still is with me because wherever I went, like even as a teacher, I couldn't not teach my kids some of these chants as energizers. And I don't know if you remember Olele. Olele. So people started calling me Olele Bhaiya in Hyderabad because everywhere I went, I did Olele. Adults loved it, kids loved it, and yeah, I think I would love to go gone back to that morning full energy. Yeah.
I love that. And I'm testing to see, is the feedback better? Because some people were saying that there was a lot of feedback. Maybe it's a little better now. But Praveen, if you can turn the volume down on your phone a little bit, I turned mine down a little bit as well, so I think that might help. And Sabrina is doing all of the whistlers and chants in the chat, which I love. Perfect. Okay, so thank you for that. And those were some of my favorite memories too. That like big gathering with tons and tons of people all chanting together. My next question for you is, what is your current interaction with the arts?
I think it's a very new thing. It's only been happening for the past couple of years consciously. I think unconsciously I was always drawn towards the art and I was doing arts. But I think it's a very personal thing for me because it's a lot of self-discovery and just trying to figure out my place in the world and what do I want to say about the world. And I mean, so I have a lot of, I think, controversial ideas about art, which are not like in the normal, generalized, like what people normally are conditioned to think of. And so I think the more I do art, the better I understand art itself and yeah, and its place in society. I think that's very interesting for me. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
And yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Sorry. So it's also a personal thing. And of late, I've been collaborating with other people who either need graphics or like messaging. I think right now I'm collaborating with someone to bring awareness to periods and sustainable menstruation. So yeah, that's new and exciting.
That's really exciting. Tell us more about that project.
Someone I knew from Teach for India, right now in life is running these campaigns. I think she calls herself the Bloody Feminist, and she focuses on sustainable menstruation and also how to make it available to the public. And she wants the government to actually provide it for free. And so I'm just helping her out in the meantime with like graphics for Instagram and Facebook. Initially, she has started like an art challenge. And so I actually did a couple of menstruation pieces, which turned out very well. I'm very happy about it. So, yeah.
That's incredible. And if we wanted to find out more information about that project, could we Google it? What would be the best way to find it?
On Instagram. It's called The Bloody Feminist. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. The Bloody Feminist. Can someone type that in the chat so that everyone can see it? So that everyone who's interested, because that sounds like a super cool project. I know there's people in the chat who are super pumped about it. Awesome. That's really cool. Now, the question I was going to ask before, when I knew you, well, I still know you. When I first knew you,
yes,
you were definitely a pianist. And I'm curious if now you are just totally a different type of artist, or how do you identify as an artist now?
That's actually a very interesting question because of late I've been drawn to visual arts because I feel like that has a very direct and strong impact with people and it's more available to people and sight is also very strong. I think it's sort of like a phase because I did 10 years of piano and then I composed music in college for some musicals. But then after that, I don't think, I think first accessibility to piano was one thing that was there. And so I didn't really continue playing the piano. And so I think I naturally drifted to like visual arts and expression and all of that. And yeah, dancing is a little bit too uncomfortable in public to me. I'd rather teach it and dance at home. But yeah, and also I think along with visual arts, I think there's also craft. I think when either my energy is really high or I think it's based on the emotional outburst that I have or how I feel at that day. Sometimes I like working intricately with my fingers, or otherwise I like exploring the visual arts. Yeah.
Very cool. And just in case you didn't see it, there's so many people complimenting Over the Cliff, which I was also lucky enough to hear. So, you know, next time you're around a piano, I think you have a lot of fans. And so now, Well, I guess before, when you were working with Teach for India, I'm curious, you'd mentioned using energizers and sort of pulling that piece of
Yes.
the arts. Were there other artistic things that you brought into your classroom?
Yeah. So when I became a teacher, I was so excited. I was like, I know all of these things because of A Step and all the art I've been exposed to, and I definitely wanted to teach the kids. And I was actually assigned a sixth grade classroom in a small low income community in Hyderabad, and it was also a Muslim community, right? And so it came with its own challenges, and I really wanted to like go all out teaching them all forms of art. So whenever I could get away with it, I taught them like poetry, a lot of Shakespeare monologues, and we did a lot of drama. There was some drama competitions, and yeah. So then I taught kids. I mean, I actually learned how to direct a play, and so in my second year of teaching, I realized that direct just academics isn't going to cut it for the kids, and that's when I started thinking about what role art plays. And so I started encouraging kids to doodle. I used to give them points on their tests if they would do a like quick doodle on the side. And so they started doodling a lot, and I saw a lot of improvement in academics once kids started doodling a lot. A lot of them started becoming more individualistic because they knew what they wanted to draw. They saw like a version of themselves on the paper. And I think it built a lot of confidence for the kids itself. And apart from that, dance, I tried one of the classical, not classical, yeah, I think contemporary pieces that I learned at an A-Step camp. I taught it to some of the kids there. A lot of boys also were very interested in it, which was great to see. Yeah, and I integrated everything into like one play. So I think Mauricio once taught some kind of sword play in school, and then I integrated that too. So I think a lot of things that I've learned from different A-step artists, I could inculcate it into my classroom, even in the teaching and in the culture setting and making groups and different themes. It was just fantastic.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. And I had a different question, but now I'm going to change it a little bit. So you mentioned that you felt like, especially that doodling piece, really helped build students' confidence. So I guess I'm curious, do you feel like bringing the arts into an academic classroom helps academics directly, or is it more because it builds the student's whole self that it helps them academically?
Yeah, I think it's the second where because of the arts, the kids start to either feel better about themselves or know themselves better, and hence it shows in academics. And yeah, so I think the thing is in a classroom, a teachers are, as much as we try, we can't really give that individual attention and say in a classroom of 30, 40 students. And they all come with their own problems, and the classroom isn't like the highest thing in their lives, right? So I think what art does is, or shifting the focus to art is, the kids themselves see that they can build their own selves because I would give them time to like just doodle or give them ideas like small geometric patterns to do. And once they see they're able to do something like in the arts, because I mean, this I want to talk about later, that art has, for me, has no rules. So I would accept anything that the kids came up with. And there was this really, I want to say, Roald Dahl type kid in my class who was just unusually wonky, I would say. And his art was amazing. I absolutely loved it. It was really abstract, and he used to be able to explain it to me. So I think that actually built a lot of relation. They made it stronger in the classrooms. And yeah, also art just, I think it takes it to another level. Just the kids, I want to say existing, but I think that's more personal point for me. I think art really connects to just living. And I think part of that the kids realize through the arts.
Yeah, that answer is so beautiful, and it feels like, knowing a little bit about Teach for India, having worked with them myself briefly, I know that a big part of their goal is to make students lifelong learners, to really have them become their own education advocates.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's exactly what you were able to do through the arts.
Yeah, yeah, and also a lot of like I was able to bring around a lot more gender equality because when once you get the kids started on arts, they don't worry about, hey, am I working with a girl, am I working with a boy? Because a lot of it is just what adults condition kids to think, and so they keep up that pretense. But when they're actually distracted or invested in something, that usually goes away.
Yeah, and I'm sure having a male teacher teach them dance, teach them being silly was also really good for the female
Yeah.
students to have that, but also for the male students to have that. That's incredible. Raul had a great question. Can you talk a little bit about what was going through your mind when you made that artwork that's behind you?
Yeah, so that was actually uh, so a year or a couple of years ago, I had a kind of breakdown where my understanding of the world didn't hold up to what I was seeing, or what I was taught wasn't necessarily true. And in that phase, I was just in this whole turmoil, and I couldn't sleep. I was always thinking, and at the same time, then I threw myself into painting just because painting is so like physical, like you actually have to move your hands, and like drawing is a little bit restricted. So when I went to painting, I think I started exploring it as completely as I could, and I strayed away from any artwork that was about myself. But one day, I just wrote down my feelings, how I felt, and then I tried to make it into a painting. And so I used a toothpick to paint this, and I'm also not like a traditional artist. Yeah, I took a bunch of toothpicks and just like in all of that energy and I want to say angst. So I took a picture of myself and then drew with a pencil and then painted it. And yeah, there are some flowers here, and I think those represent my constant need to keep bettering myself or trying to go in the direction where I think is the right direction, but like constantly failing. So like a flower would grow out of me, and then like my own actions would end up destroying whatever I was working on. So yeah, there should be okay. There was a gun on the side, like a shotgun, but I painted over it. I think I like the chaotic background. So this was my first personal piece. Yeah.
And the whole thing is made with toothpicks.
Toothpick. Yeah, I just painted it with toothpicks.
That is incredible. And I don't know if you've seen all these chats popping up, but you are inspiring many, many people on this call, or have already inspired many, many people. Okay, so I know you want to talk a little bit about what the philosophy of art is.
Yes.
Take us away.
Okay, so this is complicated. I myself don't know where to begin. Um, but so another thing that I always think about is just human behavior, like what drives it, right? And how we how we are actually born into certain conditioned bubbles so that we can actually adapt to society. And I've been seeing a lot of problems with that of late. Even as a teacher, I did a lot of things that I currently would not do. So I think when it comes to art, I think my baseline or my fundamental thought I always go back to is that art has no rules. And that is itself is a paradox because that is a rule that talks about there not being a rule. And so, and just that statement has like endless possibilities. So I think my, I think that's one aspect of the philosophy that art has no rules, and I generally don't give a direct answer when people ask me to teach them art. Instead, I just try to get them to do it organically and not like, hey, I want to learn art. And I think it has to be something that and I think another thing with art is there's this whole part of expression where in order to bridge the gap between what you want to say and what others get from your art, it comes with practice and you constantly do it. It could be either working on the visuals, or it could just be working on the imaging, like what exactly do I want to put out there so people can get what I want. And so it definitely takes time, right? So if you are going for the messaging. But I think a major part of art is the process of creating it. So I've also done a lot of art with a lot of black backgrounds and a lot of alphabets. I would color around the alphabets. And these are like really tedious, and they take like 3 to 4 hours a day for like a week to complete them. And I think what art does is once you actually get into it, you reach the state of flow. A lot more things in your mind become unmuddled and more clear. And I think that's another thing art can really do. Art can really help with, say, therapy. Because even if you don't have to do art to show someone else, right? You just have to find what works with you. And I've actually encouraged a lot of my friends to to actually make their own coloring sheets and just spend time coloring. And it's actually shown a lot of good results in some of my friends. And yeah, and it's just incredible that just sitting and coloring a page would do so much for you. And another thing about art, I think, is that there's this whole capitalized version of it, and that itself makes it intellectually unavailable to people, right? When they think that, oh, I need to aspire to a certain standard like Picasso, Van Gogh, and most people don't really know that these artists spend like decades of their lives trying to get that one painting, and they threw their entire selves into it. And our current societal conditioning doesn't really allow people to follow their hearts, I think, because they have to be cogs in the whole capitalistic machine, which I think is okay. It's very difficult to just disband capitalism, but I think there's a great disconnect between life, nature, and human beings as of now, and art bridges us closer, right? I think art is the one thing that I do is the most natural thing for me. Everything else like takes away at my energy. I need to spend time on it. But when I do art, I feel like I've done something, right? I feel better after it. And I think making art breaks down a lot of your stereotypes. Like, for example, when I was in Shantiban, I always considered myself not an artist. I never thought I could draw properly, couldn't color in the borders. And even the doodling that I started was just shapes that would fit together, not really forms. When I tried forms, I sucked at that too. And I think I got better at faces when I attended Jijo's workshop. And yeah, so I never really considered myself an artist. And over the years, the more I've done it, initially I did it unconsciously because I just had to. And I didn't realize that I was doing so much of art initially. And then later it became more of a conscious choice. And so I think one is the more art I do, the better I become at it, even though I haven't studied maybe how to draw something or different perspectives of something. But the more I do, the more I understand the different mediums I use, right? The more I paint, I understand how it interacts, how it works. So I think art is not just something that as light as people consider. I think it's something that actually educates you without you having to learn anything per se. And yeah, I think that should be like one of the subjects, or just people should be encouraged to just do art, like make it compulsory to make art. And I think my final piece is like, even 2 years ago, if you'd asked me what place art had in the world, I couldn't answer you because I could give you all the reasons that supported capitalism, right? Like I knew what each subject did. Like mathematics was responsible for this, science was responsible for this. But when I look at art, I didn't know. I was clueless, and that used to make me so angry because I inherently knew that that art was right. It felt right, and so yeah. And I think that's the one thing I realized, right? Even if you are not willing to consider art, art will consider you, and that's why that's why I think art is so powerful. Like in terms of just connecting to people regardless of whether they choose to or not. And yeah, and I think that comes to my fourth point, where I think art really has the answers to everything. Like, okay, you're thinking, oh, global warming, what does it do? I myself just spend, like when I do craft, I don't buy items. I recycle a lot. And just imagine if everyone recycle a lot, put in all of that extra energy they have into making things with what they are about to throw away. And so that's one thing, right? Like global warming. And I think another thing with art is just it builds community because it takes confidence to make art. And once you see someone making art, you're willing to try it too. And that I've seen that ripple effect in people around me. A lot of people I know have started doing art on their own, and it's their own version. They're okay. I have a fifth postulate. Okay, so yeah, so I think I actually wanted to come to like George Floyd because I came across this quote that said, sorry, like everything is political, and I completely agree. And I think art has always had like this place in history of getting people to face uncomfortable truths and to see things for what they are, right? Because art at the end of the day is someone's unique perspective, and you can't dismiss that once you see it. And I think that's what led me to create George Floyd. I made a small artwork of George Floyd. And so, yeah, okay, the quote was this, that the artist reflects the society. And what I got, why I chose to make like one of George Floyd and not anyone else is because George Floyd he like triggered the whole protest thing. And I like, it makes me really emotional thinking about it. And yeah, so let's move on to the fifth point. I think art is for everyone, and anyone who thinks otherwise is lying. That's what I believe. And because here's the thing, right? No one on earth knows anything really, and everything we know is something we made up, like finance. And so it's really crucial. This I've learned at TFI. I think it's really crucial that everyone shares their perspective or their viewpoint on earth, because we will never know. I will never know how Lizzie looks at the world. I can only for sure know how I look at the world. And so I think that's the last thing I would like to say about art is that it's for everyone, and there's no one, it's basically, there's no one way to do it. There's literally no one way to do it. I mean, people put themselves into art, you will see all of these beautiful things. And yeah, yeah, I feel like I'm preaching. But yeah, I mean, I get very passionate about art, and I haven't really been confident enough to talk to people about it. This is my first time. So yeah.
Thank you for giving us this gift, and to just shout out something you said that I need to like write down and put on the wall next to me every day. Even if you don't consider art, art will consider you. I love that so much. That feels like a motto to live by.
Yeah, I mean, it just happened right now. Like, I was also like, whoa, what did I just say?
Deep.
Okay, sorry, I have something else to add.
Go.
Yeah, so like I said, there are too many things to mention, but another thing is just the process of art. A lot of people think art is about knowing the end product, but I never know what I'm going to paint, right? I always start with one idea, and then it just happens, and I just work on it. And if nothing happens, then I put the piece of art away and I get back to it when I have an idea. So that, I mean, this connects back to, again, art having no rules. I think you don't need to know what you're going to do in order to create art. And like even this guy, for example, like I just knew this was the posture that I wanted in the artwork. I didn't know I was going to do with toothpicks until I actually started doing it. And yeah, so literally I try to make everyone I meet do some version of arts. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, arts is for everyone.
Arts is for everyone. I love it. And speaking of that, I was going to ask you how the arts fuel you, but I feel like we've covered that and so much more with what you just shared. So my question is, what would you recommend? You said you've sort of recommended to some friends to make their own coloring sheets and doodle there. I don't know if you can hear me because there's a bit of a spinning wheel, but I'm going to keep asking this question. What do you think? Oh, okay. Praveen left.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I just lost you there for a second.
Praveen's here. Okay, so my question is. I'm echoing again. My question is, what would you recommend for all of us to fuel ourselves with art?
Okay. I think the first thing is to not think that you have to do art. There is no necessity in this world to create art, and I think it's so. I mean, it's actually very tricky to say that you don't have to do arts because it's not necessary. Because I feel like until you try it, you really don't know what works for you. So I think what I would suggest is if you are inclined to it, I think just try whatever you want to do in that moment. Like, for example, say you want to paint, just go ahead and paint, right? There doesn't need to be set specific instructions. Like, even for canvas, canvas is too expensive for me to buy. So at IKEA, I found this 30-meter roll of paper, and then I stick it on used cardboards and I paint on it, right? So that works really well for me in along with like sustainability. So I think one is just look around your home. There are a lot of things you can make art with. I mean, even with the pen and paper, I think one thing would be just start doodling, and your doodle doesn't have to look like anything. Don't judge yourself. I think that's the only thing I can say. Accept what happens and then reflect on how you feel. Because for example, I don't do a lot of dance when I want to communicate something. I go for the arts or go for words. So find what works for you. Coloring is wonderful. If you really want to push your creativity, add limitations, right? If you want to paint, take away the toothbrushes. And I think art is all about what you make of it. So really, there's nothing I can say that will click for you until you go out and try and do art, right? Only your surroundings will inspire your art. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe look for inspirations, or just see what comes. And especially in the next, okay, here's I think the definite advice I can give, I think, is the next time you feel something strong. I mean, generally happiness, people go and celebrate with others. But if you're feeling an emotion that you don't want to think about, or that is too strong to process right now, just go and express it some way, right? I think that is just grab a piece of paper, put something down. And also another thing that I do is, you know how like ideas stay with you for years? It can be random idea, a picture, a dream, a thought, a word. And slowly, as things stimulate you regarding that particular thought over the years, you just keep adding on to it. I think that's what most of my art is. Things that I've been thinking about for the past 15, 20 years is something that I use to make my art, right? So find a random image in your mind, a random thought, and you know what it looks like, but the physical world has some limitations. So be patient with when you're trying to express yourself. And yeah, you don't have to share it with anyone if you don't want to. And keep at it. I think that's one very important thing, because the more you do art, the more will be revealed to you.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking of inspiration, during lockdown, during a pandemic, how do you stay inspired?
So, I mean, my pandemic life isn't very different from what used to be my normal life. So I just spend a lot of time indoors. I think of late I've had this whole art phase, right? So I stay indoors and I work on my art if I'm not doing anything else. And I think if I have to talk about inspiration, I think I ask you for inspiration in general or inspiration for art?
However you want to answer.
I think just go back to your core beliefs. I think a lot of our thoughts stem from there. So or just go back to what genuinely makes you happy, like something that you would be happy for or at even when no one is around. And I think something like that for me is just people. No matter what I'm thinking about or what I'm analyzing, like say even if I'm considering the war in Yemen, right? There are a lot of things in between me knowing about the war in Yemen and what's actually happening. And so if you think about it, there are a lot of people actually working on this, right? Working to make this place a better world. And so And then when I think about just human characteristic and spirit, it's that you can't afford to lose faith in humanity, because then what are you really doing here, right? Because um, and another thing is just it's very difficult to empathize with the world and the people in the world right now, because there are so many things wrong. But the fact that you are considering this or thinking about it is, I think it's a cause for hope, because everything starts within yourself, right? Even if you want to go change the world tomorrow or go help someone you know is in trouble, I think first and foremost has been to look inwards, because I think art for me has very recently I've started healing through the arts, because it's very difficult when everything you know changes and you realize that nothing is for certain, and even the concepts of right and wrong are so they're on shaky grounds. And so I think one is step one, to take yourself into account when you consider the world. And if you are someone who wishes well for the world and is doing good in whatever your own way, right? Are you cutting down on plastic? Are you kind to people? Are you reaching out when you see someone needs help? Or are you taking that time to ask yourself the hard questions so that you yourself can make the world a better place? And I think that is step one to inspiration. Just use your own self as an inspiration. And I think second is just think about the population number. I think it's 7 point something billion people. And if you in your circle are doing something good, then there is someone else in some other circle who's also doing good. And then people are looking at them doing good, and they themselves start to change a little bit. Like even over the course of the past few months, even the most like people with the most orthodox thoughts have been starting to consider what I have to say, or what people with opposite views have to say. So I think you just have to trust in the human connection. And also, like on Instagram, only 300 million people are like use it, or I think close to a billion people. So there are a lot more other people out there who don't bother to come on Instagram or Facebook, or who don't make it to the news. And there's good happening, right? And if you in your own circle can talk about it or create some art about it, I think even if you don't think that makes a big difference, I think just taking care of yourself and people around you goes a really, really long way.
Incredible.
Incredible.
Praveen, can you try turning the volume down on your
Praveen, can
phone
you
just
try
a
turning
turn?
the volume down on your
Yes,
phone?
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
So I'm going to, in case anyone else has questions they want to pop
anyone
up,
else has questions they want to
but
pop
my
up.
takeaways, I'm going to list them.
My takeaways,
Art is for
I'm gonna
everyone.
list them. Art is for everyone.
Even if you don't consider art, art will consider
If you
you.
don't consider art, art will consider you.
Check out The Bloody Feminist.
Check out The Bloody Feminist.
And give extra points for doodling.
And
It's
give
something
extra
every
points
teacher
for
should do.
doodling. It's something every teacher should do.
Any other
Absolutely.
takeaways you want to add to that
Any
list?
other takeaways you want to add to that list?
Just start doing art today if you are not doing it already. Yeah.
I love that.
I love that.
Thank you so much, Olele Baya,
Thank you
for
so
this
much,
wisdom.
Olele Baya, for this wisdom.
It was wonderful getting to catch up and chat. I was just saying it's wonderful getting to catch up and chat. And unless anyone has any last questions they want to throw in the chat, I think that's everything for today.
I think that's everything for today.
Also, yeah, thank you to everyone who joined. I am so glad to have seen some of you after so long. And also, Lizzie, thank you so much for asking me to do this. I've never before spoken about this, and yeah, I mean, I absolutely love being here. Thank you so much, and it's a real honor being live with A Step. Like I'm losing my mind.
We are too, Praveen. So maybe we'll talk art again sometime soon. We'll talk the philosophy of art again, because you dropped some serious wisdom to all of us on this call. Have a beautiful day, everyone.
Thank you,
And
guys.
this will be on the Instagram Live, the IGTV, rather. So you can go back and watch and take all those notes. Bye, Praveen. Have a great night. Bye, everyone in India. Have a great night. Everyone in India, have a great day.
Bye, guys. Yeah, good night and good morning.